You know, throughout my years of serving in ministry, and even before serving in actual paid ministry positions, I was always keenly aware of some of the ways that a lot of people would go just above and beyond in even minor ways to others, just to serve, just to make sure people knew that they were cared for. And sometimes it was service beyond all recognition, that they did everything they could to stay out of the limelight, to stay away from being recognized for it, because they simply wanted to just do something to love others. One of the things we do on our mission trip now that I picked up from a number of years ago, and I have Pastor Reverend Dr. Matt Lake now. Congratulations, Matt, on that again. But Matt Lake was a wonderful mentor in many ways for me, and we went on a mission trip to Evansville, Indiana. And one of the things that he instituted that trip that I have kept with me for a long time was something that we do now called Secret Servants. And we had a blast with it, you know, but Matt made sure to put it in a context that we understood what the purpose was. When it comes to being a servant, it's not about getting attention, and it's not even about doing grandiose acts so much as it is just finding little ways to constantly be aware, to look for ways to serve others. This week, as we talk about the spiritual discipline of service, we look at Jesus and we turn to this story constantly. But when Jesus washed the disciples' feet, it was right after they were arguing about who was the greatest among them. And really what Richard Foster suggests is that argument may have stemmed from recognizing, hey, we need someone to wash our feet because they're dirty, nasty, stinky, and we're now in this upper room. Who among us is going to be the one to have to do that? And Jesus, hearing this argument, decides, you know what? This is an opportunity to remind people what it means to be radically changed when it comes to who is the greatest among us, about leadership and authority. Jesus doesn't say that there's not any authority, but he says the greatest leaders are the ones willing to serve. And so Jesus, the Son of God, God incarnate in the flesh, gets down on his hands and knees and takes the role of the lowest of servants in a household to wash the disciples' feet. I think too often we trivialize that story or don't capture the fullness of what just happened in that moment. You see, when it comes to being a servant, we have to recognize the difference between self-righteous service and true service, as Richard Foster talks about. And he goes through a number of ways that there's a very distinct difference between the two. And I'm not going to go through them all, but we need to recognize when it comes to being Christ's disciple and serving others with the same attitude that Christ had, we have to recognize it's not about us. It's not about getting the glory. It's not about being really in it for ourselves in any way. The discipline of service is a lifestyle that we live out. It becomes a part of the humility of having Christ in us that changes how we see things. Self-righteous service is very sinister in how it works its way into our line of thinking, because the world tells us it's about you. It's about getting the attention. It's about numbers. It's about measurable statistics. It's about having this massive scheme, about big results. It's about all sorts of things where the discipline of service is simply about humbly loving others. That's it. And that sounds so simple, and yet it's so hard because our hearts oftentimes will justify or try to control things when in reality true Christian service is about losing control, about giving that control over to Christ. And that's sort of freeing when we begin to recognize that true service is just about never passing up any opportunity to give, even in small ways, love to others. I want to encourage you in the next week or so, as you're going about everything, anything and everything you're doing, pause and look around and listen with your ears and with your heart. And just ask, what can I do free of charge, free of any need to control or manipulate the situation, to just honestly love and serve someone? And every opportunity, don't pass it up. Don't miss that chance to put that towel around your waist, get down on your knees, and wash people's feet. And once we do, I believe if we are willing to do that without reservation, without hesitation, without trying to argue about whether or not they are worthy of the service, that is when we truly begin to get at the heart of the God who loves us. See you next time.